if you're LeVeon Bell, you need to go back to winning. So I would tell you the Chiefs or the Bills. The only reason I would say someone other than the Chiefs is because the Chiefs got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and this brother can play. And so I don't know how much action he can ball.
Oh,
so I don't know. I don't know how much action LeVeon Bell, especially the LeVeon Bell we've seen in a New York Jets uniform, is going to get. Now, obviously, I'm not completely blaming him. I know a lot of people will look at him and say, "What the hell did he do? Signed $52.5 million, about $28 million guaranteed. Still owe $7 million. Ain't done a damn thing for the New York Jets. Hasn't even had a 100-yard game in the 17+ games or so that he's played for the New York Jets." I'm going to blame that on Adam Gase. I'm going to say Adam Gase had something to do with that because I think he's terrible. He never deserved to be the head coach of the New York Jets. It was a stupid hire. And as far as I'm concerned, this will be well, he was high. Because in my opinion, Louis Riddick, Max Kellerman, in my opinion, just my opinion, if you go back to the Adam Gase introductory conference to be the head coach of the New York Jets, he looked high, straight up zooted out of it. That's how he looked. And that's what I'm sorry. That when I see people who have been high, that is how they have looked. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about that.
I mean, it looks like you got the impression down pretty well. I see it on the split screen right there.
Well, I was about 15 pounds heavy at that particular moment in time, but that's neither here nor there. I looked like I had 2 chins at that point. The point that I'm trying to make to you is this. In the end, what it comes down to is LeVeon Bell, I'm going to blame it on Gase. I still think that he's got some stuff left. And to me, he needs to be someplace where he's going to get action. You could use Miami, but guess what? Tua's going to ultimately be in there. Even though they've looked good, they're still rebuilding. I'm thinking, look, after leaving Pittsburgh and being accustomed to a winning situation and then contaminating yourself by wearing gangrene, you need to go to a winning situation, which needs to be KC or Buffalo, because I think Buffalo is on the come up. So I would say Buffalo first, then the Chiefs, then Miami.
Of those 3 teams, I would take the Chiefs first. Helaire is a dynamo, but even if LeVeon Bell is not producing because those fast twitchies aren't what they once were, I always thought of him as a very cerebral back. Like, he would diagnose the defense and run with such patience and wait for holes to open up and hit him. You could line him up everywhere. You could split this guy out wide. He could do so many things. And to me, obviously you have to be very athletic to do that, but that's not what it was about. And so on a team like the Chiefs with a young dynamo like Helaire, I think he could be very valuable for what's inside his head. Never mind the production where, away from Adam Gase, I expect it to tick up a bit, if not a lot. I think probably the Chiefs are of those 3 teams. None of those 3 teams would jump to mind for me, like, oh, that's where he's heading. I mentioned Chicago maybe because Cohen's out for the season, and he seems like a fit there. But of those 3 teams, the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Chiefs, I would say the Chiefs are the best fit. And also, all teams have more than one back nowadays. Even when they have a primary back, you need a couple. And to have 2 backs as versatile as Helaire and LeVeon Bell, you give Andy Reid those guys with that team, look out. Even if it means fewer touches for him and everything, you would think at this point in his career, LeVeon would want to be a part of something like that.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs would be the team that would really want him the most also because, look, they didn't expect Clyde Edwards to be just the primary ball carrier. They were expecting to have Damian Williams until he opted out of the season, obviously, for family reasons and very legitimate reasons. But I think they ideally wanted to have a legit 2-back rotation. And knowing Brett Veach, the general manager, the way I do, and knowing how he values running backs and how he likes to get running backs, you know, that are very affordable to him as far as their salary cap is concerned, it makes sense for them. And really, it would help out Clyde Edwards, to be quite honest with you, considering the fact that he's a rookie and hasn't been through an offseason and it's a long season. I think it would be a home run for them. They would be thrilled to death if he picks them. From a pure need standpoint, I think Buffalo, without a doubt, makes most sense for LeVeon if he wants to get even more touches because, I mean, from a yards per carry basis, they are really suffering this year. Max, I think you just mentioned Chicago. Really, when you just look at it organically and just take everything out of it, that's the place that I'm shocked, quite honestly, that they are not in the picture here. That I really am, because as much as I like David Montgomery, he is just not, it's just not enough. They don't have enough juice back there to really get it done. And I'm surprised that team isn't in the mix here. But as far as winning is concerned, if he wants to try and really get a championship and not have to take too much of the load and put it on him, Kansas City's a no-brainer.
But Louis, that's where you and I part ways in that. I get where you're coming from, and I certainly won't challenge that in terms of it being beneficial to Kansas City. If he were coming from Pittsburgh to a Kansas City, then I would be more receptive to that. The problem is that this brother still wants to play in this league. He still wants to showcase what he brings to the table. And it's a bit problematic when you were just playing with the New York Jets and literally averaging 0.7 yards, not even a yard, 0.7 yards before contact. Your offensive line was suspect. It was non-existent as far as I'm concerned. Sam Darnold is taking a step backwards. Receivers want to leave town quick, fast, and in a hurry, and they ain't got nothing to do with COVID-19. They just don't want to be around Gase. That's really the reality of the situation. We already know what Jamal Adams feels about him. He's told you what he feels about the Jets organization, and I suspect LeVeon Bell's going to say the same thing when he departs. Because that's your backdrop, your immediate background, I think it's important for him to go someplace where he's going to get activity. See, if he goes to Kansas City, we all know that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to get most of the work. He's going to get some touches, but in the end, that young brother right there is going to get much of the load, and LeVeon Bell is going to just drift. I think for him to continue up or to recapture that cachet he once had, that's where I'm coming from. His best shot would be Buffalo ahead of Kansas City, even though I like the Chicago idea as well. But Kansas City definitely is a better winning situation.
You can use LeVeon all over the field, though. And I think after you get released, the ego takes a certain hit or realization like, you can't get value from me? Really? So you have something to prove, but you also realize the way you're perceived and maybe even the way the way your own body reacts to the way versus the way it did 3 or 4 years ago, right? Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.